Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the absolutely fantastic Jamie Strauss. Jamie, take it away.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, reasons to be positive, coming last in this conference, or nearly last, gives you a huge opportunity just to kind of reflect on what has been said. And I think compared to last year, we've really seen this conference has really emphasized the benefits, I think, of coming together, not so much from a holistic point of view, but a practical one. The key must be on communication, engagement. And I thought one of the wonderful presentations was, I forget who it was, but the acceptance of the risk of failing, which I thought was wonderful. This is not a pass or fail, but a journey. Zach Wood's brilliant presentation, which stressed the need to find a way to talk across standards and the requirement for each and every mine to engage with ESG, not just the large producers. This now reflects every single company, every project across our industry. Comments yesterday on one of the panel to embed ESG in the core of the business model. And I very much read into this as it relates as much to culture as well as process and transparency. So let me just tell you a story. 18 months ago, I was on a webinar with a number of senior members of the fund management industry, and confusion reigned. We had mining company management with no idea what to disclose, and fund managers having absolutely no comparable data with which to assess companies' management or their projects. There was, at the end of this webinar, there was full acceptance that this would remain and continue to be the same. There would be no silver bullet to harmonize and improve clarity. And as was said at the time, we'll just have to make do with what we have. I guess that was red rag to a bull when it came to me, because we now, following Digbee's ESG launch back in February, early March, we have a solution that specifically addresses these problems, that was built specifically to help management and help the financial and other third parties in the world. So it's widely supported by stakeholders working with many groups. That's not just financial institutions, but insurance companies, producers, and the developers themselves, as well as very much being available and acceptable to local stakeholders, NGOs, governments, and others. It's practical for every company within the sector. It directly impacts actions on the ground and hugely improves efficiency, both at the corporate management level in terms of their disclosure actions, but also with the third parties. It challenges, but above all, it rewards management for the action that they take, and it provides a simple solution for all third parties to assess ESG credentials in a credible manner. I think it's probably worth re-emphasizing that the sector is last equal on the Standard & Poor's rankings with regards to environmental and social. The sector is critical to the world's transition to a sustainable future, but at the same time, we must help ourselves to improve not only our performance, but also the perception of the industry within society. The ultimate goal of successful ESG, I guess, depends on the perspective from wherever you come from. But for me, if we can credibly track mining companies of all sizes, encourage and reward consistent improvement across the spectrum of topics within ESG, then firstly, it will have a direct and positive impact on the ground with the environment, society, and biodiversity. But above that, it will also improve the perception of the industry to investors as well as society. So if these 2 points come together, then we really provide a strong foundation to encourage new pools of capital into the industry, such as green impact investors, green funds, and just ESG funds generally. Not just to come into that, but that and to kind of have a positive impact with regards to mining just generally, but also that will ultimately trickle down and have an impact on valuations as a whole within the sector. And I see this actually as an opportunity for one of the great re-ratings of sectors of all times. And that will have come as a result of proving the positive impacts that we're having on the ground. And particularly one of the ones was the Natural History Museum, ones earlier this morning, Andy Purvis, I think it was, who highlighted the positive nature, or nature positive, on mining things. Where would we have been only 2 or 3 years ago to say that? I simply don't think we would have commented on that. So if I just share my screen and give you a quick run through on where we are with regards to Digbee ESG and how it has an impact. So I just have to go to this. Okay, so Digbee ESG provides questions for free on a corporate and project basis. It gives the ability to answer questions easily, as well as it gives the ability to management to know what to effectively ask, as well as to have a kind of blueprint to know what effectively to answer to. And from that, it provides the ability, sorry, every single question has the guidance provided for each question, and every question, and therefore the framework, is aligned to the key global standards. You'll see on this screen a pullout both of a typical question, evidence to support that question, as well as the ability to provide a narrative for that. The internal benefits are really vast. Once a report has been through an assessment by the management team and its advisors, it goes up to the board of directors for approval. The submission is not made until the board has approved the submission. That answers a critical point of the Paris Accord and where governance is going. We heard earlier this week that ESG, as part of oversight, is going from principles-based to regulatory-based. So once it's had board approval and it's gone for a submission, which takes about 3 weeks to score, the report comes back. And that PDF report initially can be used by management for board oversight generally, or from a board point of view. Management can use it from a risk management point of view. Compensation committee can use it to integrate that within the annual scorecard. There is a positives and negatives balance sheet to give the board the position of where obviously the company now lies, and the narrative is more balanced with regards to where ESG is within the industry as a whole once it gets public. It provides the ability for management to then track its ESG credentials on a year-by-year basis. You can see here in the screen, the report comes out with a score which is based on the overall aggregate, as well as a breakdown both on the corporate score and also the project scores, whichever project has been submitted. What I should add at this stage is it's really important that we've given the right for companies to hide their score and their answers for up to 13 months or the earlier of their next submission. The reason for that is to avoid this risk that people feel uncomfortable with regards to a single score, when in reality, no single score is important at this stage. What fund management and insurance and other groups such as that are looking for is embracement of ESG, trying to incorporate it within culture and to move from the left-hand side to the right-hand side with regards to a journey of improving results. From an external point of view, it gives the management and the companies the ability to have an ESG presence digitally. It allows them to reach out not only to their stakeholders, but also to a much wider platform. All scores will effectively be public after 13 months, but it's important that to understand that the scores are completely free to access, and they can go into as much detail as they like in terms of the just looking at the scores, or ultimately going deeper than that and seeing the answers or the evidence supplied. It addresses greenwashing in a head-on basis. This is project driven as opposed to corporate driven. So it looks at the project, looks at what's going on the ground, and then goes up to the corporate. It adds a huge amount of credibility to this whole process of ESG because it is aligned to the global standards, and at the same time, it has board approval before it goes anywhere, to bring it up to some degree in line with where we are with the financial world. It allows investors to compare companies on a compare and contrast basis, but most importantly on a context-driven basis. Not all projects are the same. Some have a difference in jurisdiction, some have a difference in just their location in natural hazards or otherwise. And it enables marketing of ESG effectively through a digital presence to be so much easier. Companies can share and embed the scores in their own paperwork or annual report and accounts or conference presentations. But equally, there is a digital presence through the Digbee site, which is free and easy for people to access. Lastly, and I think this really comes back to the beginning of what I was trying to say, above all, it allows companies and projects to be credibly tracked. And with that, it will allow and it will encourage new pools of capital to come into the industry and ultimately invest, knowing that they are effectively not only investing in assets which are going to provide the critical materials to allow for a sustainable or low carbon future, but equally have the confidence that companies and management are moving their ESG credentials across all three areas of ES and G in a positive and consistent manner. Sarah, thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to talk today, and happy to have any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Jamie. Absolutely fantastic. So massive round of applause from all of us on our side of our muted microphones. Jamie, a couple of questions are just coming in at the moment. The first one is, do you have companies already running through Digbee, or where are you in terms of that status?
Yeah, I probably should have said that. So thanks for that, Sarah. So we launched the first of three frameworks. So we're doing an exploration, a development, and a producing framework. The development framework actually will be split between those who are actually going to build immediately and those who are going on to do another study. We launched the exploration framework back at the end of February, and I think there's a universe of about 1,700 companies. We've spoken to a limited number because we're still in beta testing at the moment for the next few weeks, but we've got over 20 companies now signed up, either actively going through, and we had one who completed last week, or who are waiting for one of these frameworks, particularly the development framework, where there's huge demand actually of people queuing up waiting for that to go through. So yeah, we're well on the way, and we will have the development framework hopefully completed by the end of May, or live by the end of May, with our producing framework in September.
That's really exciting. So another question coming in, and this is from a sustainable investor, and they say, okay, so does Digbee replace the need for us to do due diligence, or is it more of a kind of a screening tool that then allows us to work out who we might want to look at?
I think that's a great question. So the nice thing is with this is that any investor, and let's be honest, all investors are increasingly becoming sustainable investors to some degree or another, because that's the way well, actually governance is working, let alone moral hazard, I suppose. But if you're a sustainable investor or any investor, you can go in and you can see as much or as little detail as you like. As I see it, really is the sustainable investors will want to get into the weeds of this. So they will look at the score. They'll go into the questions and answers. They'll go into the tornado chart and see where there's strength and there's weakness, and they can then go a little bit further than that. They then know areas with which they can engage with that company and talk to the management, or perhaps talk to a wider field than that, to actually fairly understand the areas whether or not they may need to kind of exert a little bit more pressure or arguably reward in the future as they go forward and set milestones.
Brilliant. So with that, Jamie, there are loads more questions coming in for you, but I'm sure they'll all be reaching out to you in the near future, because it's so exciting. Congratulations with everything you've created over the past year, and good luck for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Thank you, Sarah.